a former Department of Justice employee now facing felony charges for throwing a sandwich at a federal law enforcement officer. How did this come about? Joining us live to discuss the latest, Democratic strategist Mike Nellis and Trump-endorsed candidate for Congress, Sessler. It's great to have you both with us. So FBI Director Kash Patel posting this clip of the sandwich throwing scene to his X account. We're going to pull it up right now and take a look. As you can see right there, he's verbally assaulting, then physically assaulting a federal law enforcement officer that, you know, he just instantly went from a Department of Justice employee to somebody who's likely going to be a convicted felon as he throws this, sandwich at somebody. Attorney General Pam Bondi says that the man was a DOJ employee, now fired. Gerard, does this speak to perhaps a greater issue within the Department of Justice of people that ideologically are not in line with the Constitution and perhaps the president's agenda?
Yeah, maybe. I think it speaks to a greater issue of men in D.C. who don't have very good clothing choices. Maybe they need some help with that. I don't even know that there's any tennis courts in D.C., and that guy's all fully dressed and ready. Listen, this is just plain disrespect. It doesn't matter whether the sandwich was being thrown at a police officer, at an elected official, or at a regular citizen. It's totally disrespectful. He doesn't understand the social compact, which is what our country is based on. And, the truth is that Washington, D.C. is a microcosm for the rest of the country. And one of the things that's nice about living in America is you can expect the government to take responsibility for your safety and security. After all, that's their primary responsibility. So I'm excited to see the changes. I think President Trump picking Judge Janine is absolutely amazing and wonderful. I think it'll be a massive transformation in D.C. in a very short period of time that will shock people. But frankly, it's not just D.C. that needs that. It's the entire country.
Mike, politics aside, if that's possible, is it worth letting the process play out and looking at the bright side of making cities throughout the country safer again?
Well, let's take a step back for a second. It's really stupid to throw a sandwich at a law enforcement officer, and I think that probably needs to be said here. I think where I'm a little bit stuck is that the conservative movement, the Republican Party, has a lot more ink to spill, a lot more time to complain about this, which is really stupid and shouldn't happen. But they don't have a lot to say when Donald Trump pardons cop beaters at the Capitol for the January 6th insurrection. They don't have anything to say about Donald Trump covering up his own name in the Epstein file, as well as God knows who else is in there. And what I'd like to see is, if the Republican Party wants to be the party tough on crime, if they want to take on criminals, I'm all for it. Let's do that. But let's make sure we're taking on all the criminals. And let's make sure we're being smart about what we're doing. I don't think it makes a lot of sense to declare an emergency when there isn't one in Washington, D.C. Feels like an overuse and abuse of power. Same thing we saw in Donald Trump when he escalated the situation in Los Angeles and sent Marines and the National Guard in to basically do nothing. And then he had to withdraw them after they didn't contribute to the situation. They actually made it worse. I'd like to get back to a place where we can live in the real world about what's happening in our cities, is that there's a real problem and we should take on that crime because a lot of people don't feel safe, but we should be doing it by working together. We should be being smart about it. We shouldn't be playing politics.
I'll give you a chance to respond. A lot packed in there.
Yeah, well, thankfully, we have some balance to these things. And speaking of irresponsible, I think it's irresponsible for people to continue to come on shows like this and recite things that are lies, plain and simple, Mike. January 6th was not an insurrection. It was a planned cover-up for a stolen election, period.
Oh, Mike.
The evidence is it is absolutely true. Number two, do you really think in any universe that there was any kind of dirt on President Trump in relation to Epstein that would not have come out during the Joe Obama administration? I don't think so.
Can I respond to that?
I think it's going to be... Go ahead.
Right. Well, one, Donald Trump lost the 2020 election. I know a lot of Republicans have a tough time admitting that. And Jared, you've got Donald Trump's endorsement, so you can't risk it for your own political career. I get that. But Donald Trump lost. There was no planned cover up for a stolen election. That's ridiculous. At the end of the day, they broke into the building. A lot of people beat cops. A lot of people assaulted cops. I didn't hear people like you saying anything in defense of those folks, and that was wrong. Donald Trump pardoned them. And look, I'm the first person to tell you, maybe there were some people who got caught up in January 6th who deserved a pardon, but it certainly wasn't the people who put their hands on cops. So I'm not going to let the modern Republican Party and Donald Trump lecture the Democratic Party or any other American about how to keep people safe or how to support cops. I grew up in a law enforcement household. My father was a 34-year veteran in the FBI. You put your hands on a cop, you should not deserve a pardon, period.
And Mike, if I could,
that's a good point.
With regard to what we're seeing play out.
Good point for.
Go ahead.
I'm just saying it's a good point for Washington, D.C., but the point I want to make to you, Mike, is I was actually in D.C. on January 6th. I walked the streets. I was at the Ellipse. I was at the Capitol. I saw what happened. So don't try to convince me that this was an insurrection. It absolutely was not an insurrection. It was a setup.
Okay.
We'll have to see. I mean, it's really, it's about the predicate. We did see FBI Director Kash Patel recently releasing information to the Senate Judiciary Committee that the election may have been interfered with by the Chinese Communist Party, and that is still being looked at. And so I guess time will tell. In the meantime, California Governor Gavin Newsom facing some challenges in his state with regard to redistricting. We're seeing that while he's pushing to revamp the state's congressional lines, Politico's polling shows California's support, the people's support, for its current independent redistricting commission. Mike, just briefly, are California Democrats going to get on board with Newsom's plan to redistrict?
I'll address that, but just real quick on Kash Patel. Like, Kash Patel submitted that information to the Senate Judiciary. My guess is we'll never see the light of day because he also promised to release the Epstein files, and he hasn't done that yet either. So Patel is way in over his head and is just trying to distract from the failures of his leadership and Donald Trump's leadership. So we're never going to get to the bottom of any of the allegations because they're not true. Second, on gerrymandering, none of this would be necessary if the Texas Republicans, at the order of Donald Trump, didn't decide that they wanted to change the maps midway through the cycle. Republicans had no problem with these maps anywhere in the country in 2022 and 2024 when their poll numbers were looking good, when they felt like they could defeat Democrats. But Donald Trump's poll numbers are plummeting right now. People are frustrated on the economy. They're frustrated on inflation. Trump promised to make everything less expensive on day one. We're 8 months in, and nobody would tell you they're better off than they were before Donald Trump took office. So they know that they're in a bad position in the midterms. They want to change the rules. California may move forward with this. They may not, but it's going to be up to Texas. If Texas stops this, there'll be no gerrymandering anywhere in the country. We should outlaw gerrymandering because people don't like it when politicians draw their own districts. And when Democrats had control of the House, they voted for it. Every single Democrat voted to eliminate gerrymandering. Not a single Republican did.
Gerard?
Well, I think it's interesting. I'm not a very good poker player, but I will say that neither is Gavin Newsom. He has no cards to play in this, and he looks like an absolute buffoon. For those of us on the Republican side, we've been watching this gerrymandering happening throughout the country for decades. This is nothing new. The difference between the Democrat Party today and the Republican Party generally, especially those who support an America First movement, is that the Democrats are very offensive. They want to control everything, including your lives, your money, your jobs, everything. They want control of everything. Meanwhile, the conservatives, we really just want to be free. We want to live with liberty. We want to be safe. And that's the difference between the parties. The truth is, there is no more water in that rag to wring out for the Democrats to find more seats through gerrymandering. They have done it for decades. They've used it up, and there's no more space. And that's why Gavin Newsom's threats to gerrymander California are empty, along with any other blue state that's already done it. So, Texas is going to move forward. I hope that it happens. I think it's great. The one thing that we want as conservatives and as Republicans and as people who love this country is we want free and fair elections. And that should start with having census that are actually accurate and having representation across the states that's actually accurate. And I totally agree with Mike on the point that we should not have gerrymandering. I would love to just have the districts just divided up squarely with the number of voters that they need to, without any consideration for partisanship or any of that kind of thing.
Unfortunately, we are out of time. We are out of time. I really appreciate both of you, Mike Nellis, Gerard Sessler. Thank you both.